Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Pascoe, and today I'm here to give you an introduction to Ayurveda. In this video, I will give a brief introduction to Ayurveda and also help you learn your mind, body, emotional type through an Ayurvedic lens. Ayurveda has answered so many why questions. It answers the questions, why are some people night owls and others are early bird morning people? Why are some people natural artists where others are good at math? Why do some people default to anger when they get stressed out and others freeze and can't move? All these kinds of questions can be answered by understanding and learning Ayurveda. Ayurveda is an ancient holistic health practice that originated in India thousands of years ago. It promotes the idea that everyone is unique and that understanding someone's uniqueness will help unlock the keys to their optimal health. It is not a cookie cutter approach. It's completely natural, intuitive, and holistic. And it will explain why cookie cutter approaches do not work for some people. They may work for some, but not others, because it really highlights what's unique about each individual to be able to develop a more personalized understanding and therefore a personalized treatment plan when something is out of whack and not going well in that person's mind, body, or emotional health. Ayurveda describes a person's uniqueness in terms of the 5 physical elements that make up all living things. The 5 physical elements are earth, water, fire, air, and ether or space. All living things, including us, are made up of those 5 physical elements. Your constitution or uniqueness is called your Prakruti. Your Prakruti is your most natural state. It is your primal nature. It's how you were born, and it's completely unchanging. It is you at your best baseline of health. Ayurveda describes your Prakruti, your natural state, by the tridoshic model of Pitta, Vata, and Kapha. This model highlights the qualities that are unique to your mind, body, and emotion disposition. It is based on the arrangement and the distribution of the 5 physical elements. It describes how your Prakruti will have natural strengths, and it also describes how your Prakruti, your natural state, based on these 5 physical elements, the distribution of them, will also show up as likely problems and struggles that you will have, which is called your dosha. That's how you can get out of balance most likely. For instance, if you are of Pitta nature, Pitta is primarily fire and secondarily water. You are going to have the strengths of a fiery disposition. You're going to be a great leader. You're going to be decisive, but you're also going to have fiery qualities that can get out of balance. You're going to probably anger easily, and that will be your default emotion under stress. You may come across as bossy even, often because your fiery nature, your fiery disposition, if you are Pitta. Whereas if you are Vata, that's air element. That's primarily air element. And so you're going to come off with more of an airy-like qualities in your mind, body, and emotions. So you're going to be creative. You're going to love to move. You're going to be light, probably thin, probably have dry hair, dry skin. And so you're going to be more air-like, and that's going to show up across the board. So the model, the tridoshic model, helps establish what your Prakruti is, your natural state. Are you more Pitta, fire? Are you more air? Or are you more Kapha, which is earth and water? The tridoshic model in Ayurveda is the foundation of understanding why someone who is more Pitta is not going to look and act like someone who's more Vata. And someone who's more Vata is not going to look and act like someone who's more Kapha, which is why, again, those kind of cookie cutter fads and health behavior programs, food programs that are pushed that are very cookie cutter are not going to work for everyone. It gives you a chance to understand yourself on an elemental level so that you can intervene on your own behalf on that elemental level. When I teach Ayurveda or I give an Ayurvedic consultation to one of my clients, the feedback is always consistent. Why don't more people know this? This makes so much sense, and I wish I knew it sooner. I can't tell you how many times people have said that and give me that feedback, whether it's been through a workshop, because it's true. This system, this holistic health system of Ayurveda, has been around for thousands of years for good reason. It's not going anywhere. It is a useful tool for anyone to understand themselves and then be able to intervene on their own behalf in a very healthy way, rather than defaulting to something that's like popular in the media at this time for a diet or a fad or something like that. You will really know yourself and how to take care of yourself. And initially, it might seem a little bit overwhelming to learn the different prakritis and the dosha and all that kind of stuff, but it only takes a minute. I'm going to give you a brief overview today. I'm also going to have a link to an assessment to establish your prakriti, although I will talk through the different, the tridoshic model, so you might just naturally see yourself, but I'll also link an assessment so you can go through that as well if you want more information. And even then, even getting a baseline of information is going to be so useful to you. Again, anybody that has done this before typically gives that feedback that it genuinely explains everything. It's going to explain things like why certain lifestyles are going to be better for your natural prakriti, why certain lifestyles may be difficult. For instance, like if you're a pitta and you're in a work environment that you have a very micromanaging boss, your primal nature is to be a leader. That is going to be a very difficult work situation. Yes, you can work in that situation if you're pitta, but you want to know that so you understand why you act and react the way that you do. So it's going to explain all kinds of things for you. It's also going to explain why certain foods work for you and not somebody else. I think this is probably one of the biggest ones that I get. People think like, oh, I had yogurt and fruit for breakfast. Isn't that a good breakfast? And Ayurveda offers that lens of, well, it depends. I mean, that is a cold breakfast. So in the middle of winter, if you're kapha or vata, probably not. You need something that's going to be warm and it's going to stimulate your system, or you're going to feel heavy and weighed down and not very energetic. And if you're pitta, that is such a light breakfast that you're probably going to burn that off within an hour because you're of a fiery disposition and you're going to digest food quicker. So it is going to explain all these kinds of things. And Ayurveda is meant to be taught. It's not meant to be held as a secret. It's not meant to be coveted by a practitioner that you can only get information from that person and only get the treatment from that person. It really is self-healing. That is the whole purpose of it. It's meant to be taught so that you understand it and you can use it for yourself. So that's one of the reasons I want to do this video and think that it's very important. I want to be one of the people that continues to move this information forward and gives it to you and doesn't kind of hold it. I mean, of course, you can do an Ayurvedic consultation, and that's wonderful to have that kind of interpersonal interaction with this information from someone who is trained in it. But I want you to be able to have it and use it in any way that's going to be useful to you. But first, you have to know your prakriti. And so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the tridoshic model. I'm going to talk more about the qualities of each of the pitta, vata, and kapha, and it's likely that you'll see yourself here. And again, I will link the Prakruti Assessment one that I received during my training in the either it'll be in the description, or if that doesn't work for whatever reason, because obviously I do that stuff after I make the video, it'll be a link through my website, which I always have a PDF there that you can download, and it's self-scoring, so you'll know. Okay, so we will dive deeper into the tridoshic model now. Let's start with vata. Vata is predominantly air element and secondary ether. And so someone that has some constitution of vata, and again, your prakriti, I guess I should say this before we get into this, your prakriti is likely going to have a dominant dosha. It's going to be either pitta, vata, or kapha. And then there's going to be a secondary one, and then one that probably just doesn't show up very much. It's very rare that someone would be completely evenly tridoshic. And it's also rare that someone would be like 100%, because every living thing has all 5 physical elements in them. Like we as beings, we have earth. This is our body. It is of earth. We have water. We have fluids flowing through us at all times. We have air. Air brings in life force energy. We are of space. And of course, we have fire. Fire is the element of transformation. So it's what helps digest food. It's what helps discern information in our head, turning it from something that we read to something that we understand to something that we can use. So we're all 5 physical elements, but you're going to have a dominant, likely a dominant one, and then probably a secondary one. So we'll start with Vata. Vata is air element, secondary, ether, or space. And so mentally, people that are Vata are going to be of air-like thoughts. They're going to be quick thinkers. They're going to be creative thinkers. They're probably going to have a difficulty with memory, as air element is light and mobile and dry, so it doesn't have the holding capacity. So your Vata people, and as a holistic psychologist, this happens all the time, people get misdiagnosed of attention deficit disorder because they seem inattentive, they seem hyperactive because they want to move, because Vata always wants to move, and they don't pay attention very well or hold information well. It's not attention deficit, it's Vata. It could be a Vata imbalance. And of course, sometimes people do have attention deficit disorder, but a lot of times it's simply this: they are of air and space. And that is what's going to show up in how they think. Emotionally, people that are Vata tend to be pretty light. They don't have heavy, deep emotions. They might be emotional at one moment and then it's gone. It just didn't have the holding capacity. So emotionally, they tend to be fairly light. They can come across as detached at times, because each of these elements has what would be deemed as strengths and deemed as difficulties. And whatever your primary constitution is, that is going to be where you tend to have the most imbalances. So that is just also something to note with this. So Vatas are very light, very free-spirited, very creative, very mobile. They don't like to sit still. They don't like a structure that has a lot of earth and water elements, which also will balance out a Vata. In their bodies, they tend to be tall or short. They're not medium build, that's for Pitta. They tend to be thin, and they tend to be dry. Dry is very light, so they have thin, lighter bones, which is why they can run so freely and easily. They tend to have dry skin. They tend to have dry hair, because air is dry. If you put a fan on you, that's how you dry stuff, right? And so that shows up in their constitution. So on a body level, on a lifestyle level, they're going to be great when they can have creativity and movement. They're going to have difficulty when there's an expectation that they do a job or an activity that requires a lot of sitting still in a confined environment. Vatas tend to be very talkative and very social. A lifestyle at home, they're probably not going to have the neatest house. Their closet is probably going to be look like a tornado hit it. They just don't care. They just are not attached to that kind of structure. So that's a Vata in a nutshell. You might be thinking for yourself or someone that you know already. And let's move on to Pitta. Pitta is predominantly fire and secondarily water. And someone who is Pitta is going to have a fiery disposition. So mentally, what that's going to look like is that they can learn information and discern information really easily. They're going to be very decisive. They're going to be excellent leaders, because they're always going to know what to do. If you ask a Vata, what do you want to do? They're like, I don't know. You know, they won't have a plan. They're very spontaneous. If you ask a Pitta, they're like, I want to do this. This is exactly what I want to do. I want to do it at this time. And they probably have a schedule. That's just of their nature, their fiery spirit nature. Emotionally, they're going to show up with the fire emotion. So they are going to be fairly quick to anger, get frustrated, get irritated, get agitated. All the emotions that are innate to a Pitta constitution, you're going to see. And so that's something that can be very difficult on the negative side, that they have to mind their tongue, that those motions will come out, and there is a sharpness associated with fire element. So they might have a very sharp tongue, where they're going to be the ones that can really rip someone, just down to the core with their sharp, hot, fiery tongue in the word choices that they're going to use. In body, pittas tend to be medium build, so they're not really tall or not really short, and they tend to be able to gain muscle pretty easily. They tend to be super hard workers, so they really like disciplined, dedicated exercise regimens. And this was always, I could spot a pitta the second someone came into my yoga class, because they'd kind of be like, that wasn't hard enough, I'm going to go work out now. They really want that hard workout. They had a hard time tolerating the stillness associated with a yoga practice. It's just how they're wired. I mean, it's just pitta nature. There really is no judgment in these things. And that's a beauty of the lens of Ayurveda. It just is what is. There's no good or bad. It just is what is. This is what's going to happen. And so pitta with fiery disposition, if they eat a lot of spicy foods, fiery foods, they're going to have a breakout. Their skin's going to be red. It's going to be hot. It's going to be irritated. They're going to feel very dry, hot eyes. They're going to have a difficulty in summer, the fire season. So it's just of pitta nature. So pittas then on a body level then tend to have fiery issues. That's their dosha. That's the way they're going to break down, acid, stomach acid, those kinds of things. They're going to have red skin. They're going to be the ones that are prone to acne and rashes and things like that. So kapha then is earth and water, and kapha mentally is going to present like earth and water does. It's going to be slower and calmer, and there's going to be a groundedness. They're going to have wonderful memories. They're going to be very diligent in their thought processes, and they're going to like a meticulous thought process that moves kind of structurally through. So they're going to be good at studying. They're going to be good at holding information. They will really like to be able to sit and work with something for a long time. This pace can be very frustrating to a pitta or a vata. Pitta will be getting angry, and vata will be just bouncing around the room when working with a kapha. Emotionally, they are going to be more steady. They have capacity for patience and calm and peace and lots of love. And the kind of downside, the negative side of that, is that they then can get very clingy and obsessive, can find themselves in codependent relationships. The earth and water nature is very grounding and soothing, so they're outstanding caregivers. On a physical level, earth and water nature, they're likely going to have a bigger body, more physical mass, so stronger, thicker bones, more padding on their being. They're going to have soft, dewy skin. They're going to have thick hair. They're going to have beautiful, big, watery eyes. All those kinds of things that would be of earth and water elements. They're going to thrive in environments that they can be calm and patient and use their strengths, and they're going to struggle if they have someone that's like, come on, let's get going. They can often be mislabeled as lazy because it's just not of their nature to move quickly. So again, then when you understand your Prakruti, these natural qualities about you, and again, they are your primal nature. You came out like this was supposed to be how you're supposed to be. These things are unchanging. You can influence and support, but this is your healthy baseline when you understand your Prakruti. So in that, there's a lot of radical acceptance that this is what it's going to be. So someone who is of kapha nature is not going to be a tall, skinny runner type person. Someone who is of pitta nature is probably not going to be easy breezy going kind of person. And so it's important to understand these things about yourself so that you can align yourself and also reduce any kind of faulty expectations. But then that goes into communicating that with any relationship that you have, so that your partner, your friend, your coworker doesn't have a faulty expectation of you as well. If they're hiring someone who is Vata and they think that they're going to peacefully sit still and stay in some kind of box, that's misalignment. That's just not going to happen, or without a lot of struggle and problems. So knowing these kinds of things can be super useful across your life in terms of taking care of yourself, aligning your life, choosing your foods, choosing your lifestyle, communicating to those that are around you of what is going on, why it's going on, and having that personalized approach to your own life. So that's where I'm going to end lesson number 1. That is a brief introduction to Ayurveda, what it is and how it works. A brief introduction to the Prakruti, to your mind, body, emotional state, so that you can start to have that understanding. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found this information useful. I think it's fascinating. I have been studying Ayurveda for years and working with it for years, and have no intention of stopping. I want to spread it as far and wide as possible so people can have this information to help themselves out and not be stuck going to some kind of cookie cutter program that just does not work for them, whether it's for their mind, body, or emotions. So if you did enjoy this, I hope you do like this video. But also I will continue to put more videos out there so you understand how your Prakruti will be affected by times of day, seasons of the year, and stages of life. Yes, that is a real thing because the elements show up on that. And there's a general rule, like increases like and opposites balance. So Pitta in summer, it's going to be too much fire and they're going to struggle. So that will help you understand that. I'm also going to do more on terms of if this is your Prakruti and these are the imbalances that you're experiencing, here's some things that you can do to create balance. So videos on food and lifestyle and all kinds of stuff like that. So thank you for watching this one. I hope you continue on and watch more videos on Ayurveda. Thank you. This is the Prakruti assessment that I have that I will link in the description. And also, if that doesn't work for whatever reason, there'll be a link on my website as you can print this off as a PDF and take this and score it. So you are learning your Prakruti. This one is kind of a generic one. I got it during one of my trainings, but it satisfies. It's broken into 3 different categories: physical, functions, and psychological. And you can see here in the columns, it's listed as Pitta or Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, so that everything in that column is a Vata quality, which would indicate Vata disposition, and then this one's Pitta and Kapha. And then you can subscore each category, and then at the end you can total up the scores for all 3 categories to find out really what your overall Prakruti is. Because again, it's all about the distribution and arrangement of these elements and how they show up in you. So you're likely going to have one high number in one column, and kind of a middle number, and then kind of a low number. It's typically just how it goes, so that you are a dominant Pitta, Vata, or Kapha with a secondary. And don't be surprised if one of your, if your physical is a Pitta and your psychological is a Vata. That happens a lot, but that's good information because that's the launching point to being able to personalize things so that you know when you're intervening and helping yourself reestablish balance. Like if you are Vata physically and you have a lot of dry skin and dry hair and your bones are cracky, that kind of thing, it's really important to know that your diet needs to have moisture and oil and all those kinds of things to support that, because like increases like and opposites balance. So, and again, I'll be going into more detail, but I just wanted you to see this and have a brief understanding of how to score it. So you simply just, check off which one out of the 3 is most you, and then that gets 1 point, and then you score it. So, and if you have any other questions, please reach out. I'm happy to answer questions about this. Thank you.